Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a movie review, and the movie we are talking about is Midsommar. Midsommar is written and directed by Ari Aster and stars Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, William Jackson Harper, Wilhelm Blomgren, and Will Poulter. This film follows Danny and Christian, a couple nearing the end of their rapidly deteriorating 4-year relationship. Just when Christian believes that he can finally break up with Danny, Danny experiences a massive familial loss. Out of guilt, Christian decides not to break up with Danny, and instead invites her on a trip to Sweden with a group of his friends, something that he had been planning for quite some time without her. The remainder of the film follows Christian, his friends, and Danny as they experience the Midsommar, a festival that only occurs every 90 years, and slowly but surely, they all begin to realize that this festival is nothing that they could have ever imagined.
Welcome and happy Midsummer.
When this movie was first announced, my hype was through the roof. Words cannot even begin to describe how excited I was for this movie. I believe Ari Aster is one of the greatest storytellers that has come into the industry in recent years. Hereditary was my favorite film of 2018 last year, and that was his debut film. So my expectations for this movie were just beyond comprehension. I had so much hype, so much excitement. The trailers looked amazing. This poster looked fantastic. I was just so excited for this movie, and I just had to see it the night it came out. I know the biggest question that's going to be on everyone's minds is Midsommar scary? Is it going to make me jump out of my seat? Am I going to yell, scream? Is there going to be a lot of gore, a lot of blood? Is it a slasher film? And honestly, no. It's nothing of the sort. This movie is completely not conventional, and the real horror of this movie is the visceral feeling that it brings out of you. This movie is completely twisted, it is insane, and honestly, how this movie made me feel is almost indescribable and almost incomprehensible. This movie is truly a masterpiece, and it proves that Ari Aster is a filmmaker that is here to stay, and I am just so excited to see the remainder of his career.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth to it.
Midsommar, at its essence, is about a toxic relationship waiting to just completely explode. Danny and Christian's relationship is not a good one. You see the emotional abuse, miscommunication being a massive theme that is prevalent throughout the entire film. In fact, this movie has a lot of different themes. It's insane to me how Ari Aster is able to create these lavish, out there, completely unique ideas that it just seems like no one else could create. They seem so far left. But when you really pay attention and you open your eyes to pay attention to what these movies are, especially Midsommar, at its core, it's a movie about toxic relationships, miscommunication, ignorance, and it just brings out different experiences that I think a lot of us can relate to, like loss, the need to feel connected to people, the need to feel individual, and that kind of paradox between individuality and connection and being understood. Like, what is individuality? What is connection? And honestly, these are feelings and emotions that we all go through throughout life, whether or not we are completely cognizant of them or not. This movie really brought something out of me, and it's going to bring a lot of feelings and baggage out of people. And I know it's going to be very uncomfortable and very discomforting for a lot of people that watch this movie, and they're probably not going to like that very much. The ideas of miscommunication and intentional ignorance are very massively prevalent in this film. And what I mean about that is the characters in this movie purposely ignore red flags that are just so in their face that you cannot help but say that they basically made their own bed and now they lay in it. Everything that they do not communicate, that they refuse to communicate, and they refuse to acknowledge is all their undoing. And it's truly the true villain of this movie. It is not the cult, it is not the boyfriend, and of course you can make arguments that each of those in itself are antagonists, and they absolutely are, but the biggest culprit and the biggest villain of this movie is the intentional ignorance and is the miscommunication. Florence Pugh's performance in this movie is a complete marvel to watch unfold on the screen. It is honestly one of the most raw, authentic, vulnerable performances I've ever watched in my entire life. It's crazy because her performance is filled with a lot of nuance. It's in the way that her mouth curls up when she smiles. It's in the way she looks at her boyfriend or looks at this community in Sweden. It's the way her facial expression falls. It's the sounds that come out of her, these animalistic, guttural groans, cries, moans. It is just so unbelievable to watch. It's like there's not a moment that this ever really feels like acting. This just genuinely feels like we are watching a woman completely fall apart and break down in front of our eyes. And it's just one of the most real things I've ever watched in my entire life. I need Florence Pugh to be recognized for her performance. I don't need this to be another Toni Collette in Hereditary, because in my opinion, Toni Collette had the best performance of 2018 last year, and she was completely snubbed. She was gypped, she was not recognized, she was not given the proper recognition that she deserved, and we do not need that to happen to Florence Pugh. Florence Pugh needs to be nominated for an Oscar and so many awards, and if she isn't, we need to ask ourselves, why do these critics, why do these people that vote on the awards and give out these recognitions completely disregard the horror genre, when the horror genre has completely revitalized the film industry? It has been the most consistent and exciting genre that has come in recent memory, and it is time that the recognition is pushed out there and is actually given to the people that make these movies.
All I do is worry and slave and defend you, and all I get back is that fucking face on your face!
Another thing I completely loved about this movie is the cinematography. I love the way the camera is shot. I love the angles. I love the choices of colors and lighting. A lot of the lit scenes are slightly overexposed. All the highlights are a bit blown out, and it creates this very whimsical, dreamlike fantasy world that Midsommar really is supposed to convey. And it also ties in the metaphorical side of things. I mean, if you look at it and think about it, the bright colors and the bright lighting give off a very happy and uplifting tone, but it is a complete facade for the absolute sinister nature of this cult, of this community, and the terror that lies beneath it. And you can go even further and say that it connects to Danny's character, played by Florence Pugh. It connects to the emotional abuse, the trauma that she has experienced, but she puts on this happy facade to make people believe that everything's completely fine, even make herself believe everything's completely fine, when deep down, it is absolutely not okay. And it's just so beautiful. I think it's a creative decision gone right, and it is completely artistically beautiful. This movie took me on a ride. It brought up so many different emotions, so many things that I have gone through in life, and it was just such an uncomfortable experience that I know it is not going to sit well with most people. In fact, about 3/4 into the movie, it proved too much for the people that sat behind me, and they were very vocal about how much they hated this movie, and that prompted the people in front of me to do the same. And it's ironic because one of the biggest things that this movie talks about is how connection is out there. Connection lives in the air and the atmosphere and the environment that we all live in. And it's ironic because we all crave that connection, but the second that we grasp or even begin to experience a little bit of the connection that we crave, we put up a wall and we don't know what to do with it. And it's just funny to me that these people managed to experience a connection with each other with the distaste that they had for this movie, while inadvertently basically talking about what the movie wanted them to feel. That it's not that difficult to experience a connection with someone. It is exactly why that people can relate to songs that are in foreign languages or watch a foreign language movie and still feel an emotion. It's exactly why people can feel emotion in movement and dance. It's unspoken and it's unexplicable, but connection is there. You just need to will yourself to experience it. So, while these people bonded together with the connection about how much they hated Midsommar, they were experiencing exactly what this movie was talking about, but they just completely forbade themselves from completely sinking in to what Midsommar was trying to convey, and instead, because it was not the movie that they wanted, they said, I hate this movie, it's dumb, it's ugly, and I think that is completely beautiful. I think it's amazing when movies like this are so thought-provoking that they cause such a polarizing response, because that's the beauty of art. Art is supposed to be interpreted differently, and I think that's just fantastic. And it's completely ironic that they hated the movie, but I thought it was hilarious and I thought it was beautiful. In conclusion, Midsommar is absolutely beautiful and I think it's a masterpiece. I cannot wait to watch it again. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to own it. And honestly, I can talk about this movie for hours. And I wish I could, and I wish I could analyze every single detail. But unfortunately, I would have to spoil a lot of the narrative, a lot of what happened in this movie. And in this video, I'm not going to do that. I'm thinking about making a more in-depth analytical video. And if you would like to see that, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, you guys, I completely loved Midsommar. And if you want to see something that's going to have jump scares, be a slasher type movie, have lots of gore, and be that kind of conventional movie, you're not going to get that in this movie. But if you want a horror movie that is going to bring out something within you, it's going to be a visceral experience, it's going to be thought-provoking, and it's going to be completely entertaining, you have to watch Midsommar. I completely recommend it. And yes, this movie is very complex, and it has a lot of layers to it, and it talks about lots of different things and messages. But trust me, like I said earlier, connection exists all around us. And if you simply allow yourself to take in what this movie is giving off, if you sink in and allow those messages to be spoken to you, it's not that difficult to comprehend and it's not that difficult to understand. You just need to allow yourself to do that. And yes, it may be a challenge, but trust me, it will be completely worth it because Midsommar is an absolute masterpiece. Let me know in the comments below if you've already seen this movie, if you want to see this movie, and what you thought about this video. I enjoy seeing your feedback. I love reading your comments. It really brings a highlight to my day, and I love having a dialogue with you guys. And you guys, that pretty much concludes this video. If you like this review, don't forget to click that little like button. If you want to see more reviews like this in the future, don't forget to click the subscribe button. And if you are already subscribed, don't forget to click the little bell notification. You'll be notified whenever I upload new content, and you'll be the first person to know about that. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see you next time.